MorristownGreen.com.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much for coming out to WordPlay tonight, our third WordPlay. My name is Kevin Coughlin, and I am the editor of MorristownGreen.com, and we're in for a really fun night. A quick program note, we had a little typo in our promotional materials, so if you're here looking for sword play, it's next week. So we're going to have two halves tonight, and we're also going to be recording this. It's going to be on video, so if anybody nods off, you'll be able to watch it later. And some quick information before we get started. The bathroom is right around the corner here. The exits are here and in that far corner. Quickly, I'd like to tell you about a couple of upcoming events I think you'll really enjoy. This Saturday, it's a Children's Day of Art. It's for kids ages 6 to 13. A full day of workshops with professionals for all kinds of different art disciplines. The $25 includes lunch. It's a really fun day. Secondly, the 6th annual MorristownGreen.com Film Festival is coming up in August, and you still have a few weeks to enter your video. Our theme is documentaries, and we have information about all of those things here on the table, which you can get later on. And I also want to tell you, while you're over there, sign the email list. We also have a poetry wall here. So during the intermission, we have little scraps of paper with words on it. You can create your own instant poems here. So that'll be fun. To raise money, and I'll tell you in a minute, we have an arts festival that's going on here. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. To help raise money for that, we have some really beautiful postcards here, greeting cards that were made by Melissa Hall of St. Peter's, and she'll sign them for you. They're being sold here. And also you can buy these beautiful vases on the table for $10 to help the cause. While we're doing the shameless plugs, I want to also mention to you that MorristownGreen.com runs on this. You can see that? Yes. And so if you're able to, we have a jar over here. If you can toss a few bucks in there. If you like what we're doing, if you like events like this and would like more of them, that would help us a lot. Before we get started also, some thank yous are in order. And first and foremost, we'd like to thank the good folks of St. Peter's and the Reverend Janet Broderick for letting us use this beautiful space. Now you'll notice that these beautiful artworks are all around us, and this is part of the Spring Arts Festival that's going on here. We'd like to thank Morris Arts for their help in putting this together in terms of helping to fund it. And this would not have happened also without the hard work of the Three Musketeers, who include the aforementioned Assistant Rector Melissa Hall, our wonderful volunteer Carol Lindskog, who will be here later. And last but not least, our tireless MG Kids editor, the wonderful Sharon Sheridan. Today, the Iron Man behind the camera for video is the wonderful Mr. Ben Cutler. And our maestro of sound today is the incomparable pianist, Mr. Peter Moffat. During the intermission, you're going to enjoy some very delicious treats, courtesy of the parishioners here at St. Peter's. We thank them very much for that. And also, the coffee is by Dave from Smart World Coffee, so be sure to thank him next time you see him. Okay, so now we're going to get on with our show. So we live in a world of viral videos, text messages, and tweets, and the humble word often gets short shrift. But words do have power and magic, as we will see tonight. So before we get started, let's put our cell phones on silent. And also let's remember that it takes a lot of guts for our performers to come up and perform for us. For many of them, it's their first time. And so I know that you'll all be very courteous and attentive to them. And in return, if you do that, my end of the bargain is I'm going to enforce the 5-minute rule with this. It gives new meaning to doing shtick. And finally, lastly, I didn't tell this to all of our performers, but the state of New Jersey does require our performers to produce one of these. It's your poetic license. Did you bring that? It says here, I'm certified in iambic pentameter, haiku, and naughty limericks. And it says here that the holder of this license, right or wrong, can make it up as he goes along. And we know it's official. It's got the seal, the great seal of New Jersey on there. If you didn't bring your license, St. Peter's has pulled some strings for us, and we do have some temporary licenses for our performers. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first act to get us started with a lot of energy. These 3 young men are from the STARS program at the Neighborhood House. They come highly recommended by LaShawn Murphy, who is a great judge of talent over there. They have cooked up a couple of original rap pieces, and they've never performed before, so they're a little nervous, but I know that they're going to hit a home run here. So let's hear it for Nasir West, Shawn Luke, and Christopher Luke.
I do this for life, but sometimes you gotta roll the dice. A lot of bad decisions, but I gave my soul to Christ. I prayed and gave him my life.
Yeah, I'm in my mind. Yeah, I made my mind so commotion rolling around in the air. It's time for the Father of all time to pick the new generation and unfold. All my brothers here, Nas the Beast. Hey, it's funny because I'm still in the hypnotized state that lets me see what I want to see. But now I see that I need to pick up my game. It's time for me to help my mommy and daddy become stronger because they're still fighting in one another, trying to find the light because my life is so crazy and I still feel bottled up inside. I can't even see my daddy. Then kids start calling me retarded because I'm in a special class with no glasses to teach me. And I'm only 13 trying to live a nice life with all those nightmares and shattered dreams. And I'm always being a menace. Get it? Then it's the minutes and then it goes back in the circle where it all began.
I do this for life, but sometimes you gotta roll the dice. A lot of bad decisions, but I gave my soul to Christ. I prayed and gave him my life.
My life, like a volcano, there's so much heat on my chest, but now I'm happy, and my life isn't crappy. I just want to say I ain't stupid. No girl has ever loved me. I never met Cupid. I was a nice rapper from the start, but after a while I got cocky a little too far. Everyone stinked. Mr. Shawn wanted me to do this, so she looked at me and winked. My wrestler career stopped and went down the toilet and sank. The people who can't rap, they must have drinks. I'm the best. I didn't even know that I didn't need a test to know that I'm better than the rest.
Every time I think on how I live, how I fight, who I like, who I trust, take care and fight for what's right. This walk comes my way, where I can't explain how it goes through your head until you do the craziest things. You're not yourself, you're a little kid with a demon taking over, like the sun going down from the moon. Then it starts your throat till you can't breathe no more. Then it goes into your spine, we can't rhyme. Then it goes into your stomach where it feels like a blow up the inside, turn a block on a like ride. Then it goes into your feet where you can't even walk, you're a zombie fire freak. Then every day in life you try to figure out why you messed up on life and how you can't even see your children and wife and have to pay $1,000 every week. Man, cause I'm in a garbage truck trying to breathe because I'm so underneath the crossfires, my will explode in the dust and become a sudden memory. And no one remember me. And this is me trying to live with the fees until my girlfriend, she told me with a kid named Geri. And the kids start calling me retarded because I'm a special glass, no glass teach me. My dad not with me. I hope all y'all remember me when I'm in the TV rapping about how y'all treated me. Then I have to go home to hear my mother cry about the past. I'm still in the homeless shelter about to go in the streets. The end.
That was Nasir West, Shawn Luke, and Christopher Luke. Thank you, guys. That was great. Tonight I'm going to throw a few quotable quotes at you, and at the end of the night I'm going to ask you who they're from, and maybe you'll get a t-shirt out of it. So the first one, the muse visits during the act of creation, not before. Don't wait for her. Start alone. Our next act is Marie Pfeifer. Marie Pfeifer was born and raised in Morristown. She's a freelance writer, and you can read her on MorristownGreen.com. She's here tonight to read something called An Experience. Marie?
When it comes to speaking in front of an audience, I have developed the fine art of avoidance. Having said that, here I stand with script in hand. I do believe talent is in your DNA, apparently not in mine. I've been aware of this little glitch since I was very young, although I've discovered there is a little demon lurking in the corner of my mind that enjoys propelling me out of my comfort zone. Every once in a while, the little devil needles me to try, as if trying will actually make a difference. As a stay-at-home mom, I joined the Junior Women's Club to meet other young women with children. There, I met a woman who had theater experience. It was only natural that the club chose a play for a fundraiser since we had a member with the required expertise. We voted to put on a children's play, The Emperor's New Clothes. Sounded like fun to me. I became so enamored with the story and the idea of it that I believed at the very least maybe I could paint scenery or something else just so that I could be a part of the play scene. I speak to Marilyn, the artistic director, and I'm sure I explained myself. I might have suggested that perhaps I could be a part of the crowd scene. After all, then Mommy could wave to her small children during rehearsal, just like all the other normal moms do. Oops, cross that word normal out. I have worked very long and hard not to give negative labels to what I call my inability. The dictionary says it very well, describing it as a lack of sufficient power. Maybe the power comes from somewhere other than within. If that's the case, then that word is appropriate. Marilyn mistakenly gives me a line to say against my weak protests. Marilyn is an expert at overcoming anyone's protests. So I practice my one line doing all the usual things, muttering it while driving in the car, in the shower, in front of the mirror. I never missed a rehearsal. This went on for weeks. I am actually beginning to feel comfortable that I can do this. I don't need to tell you how fabulous my performance was in my head. I thought dress rehearsal went okay. We performed in front of our small children. Most of them were running around the auditorium because we weren't there to hold them down in their seats. But still, they were our audience. Then the big day dawned. Quite a nice day. Giving off good vibes, lots of great karma. I understand in some circles good karma is very important. I am a part of this play. I know it by heart. I am engaged listening to everyone's role. Suddenly, there is silence. As the silence grows, the audience disappears from my view, and then the other actors on stage disappear, leaving me at the center of this silence. It is so still with me standing there, mute. I hear whispering penetrating the silence. They are words I don't understand. I realize it is the person next to me on stage. She whispers the words so many times, I finally do hear her, because then she is saying the words out loud. She is saying my one line. Oh, look, here it comes. And to this day, I do not remember the name of the person I am supposed to be identifying. It was probably the finest hour of my personal humiliation. After the performance, no one said a word to me about my inability. I felt as naked as the emperor, except I was painfully aware of my nakedness.
Marie Pfeifer, that was lovely. Thank you, Marie. Next up, we have Veronica Hatala, age 13. Now, when she sent us her biography, all that she said was, I'm a regular at the St. Peter's Saturday 5:30 service. But we happen to know that she's also a very good singer and recorder player because she performed last week with the Peter Moffat Medicine Show. So now let's hear Veronica Hatala.
On how to open a door. Step 1. Face the door at a 180-degree angle. Be sure your position is close enough to said door to touch the doorknob within an arm's length. Step 2. Firmly grab the doorknob. Move closer to the door if necessary. Step 3. Twist your wrist, turning the doorknob approximately 90 degrees. Step 4. Exert force through your arm to gently push the door outwards or pull inwards. Congratulations, you have successfully opened the door.
Thank you, Veronica. Next up from the youth division, we have Carl Hausman. Carl is 11 years old. He's a charter correspondent of our MG Kids department at Morristown Green. In his spare time, he designs terrific board games. He's a very clever artist. You can see his works on display here. He made his cello debut last week, also with the Peter Moffat Medicine Show. And he always keeps us on our toes. Please welcome Carl Hausman.
A spider's view of humans. A human is dangerous and nasty, it's true. With no provocation, they'll squash me or you. Though acts we commit are near always not bad, such as eating mosquitoes that drive humans mad. And the only atrocities we ever commit, when common sense out the window does flit, are a small bite in mere self-defense that's gone a day later. No need for repentance. Yet all humans hate us. It doesn't make sense.
It's not often that spiders get equal time. That's very nice, Carl. And now from the same gene pool, we'd like to bring up Sharon Sheridan, the mother of SpiderMan. When she's not writing stories for Morristown Green and for various publications, or when she's not singing in the choir here, or helping her son with his homework, or cheering for the Yankees, or organizing spring arts festivals, she also writes some amazing poetry. Please welcome Sharon Sheridan.
Thank you. And if Mom's allowed to brag, he wrote that this afternoon when he came home from school, and I said, so what are you reading tonight? So I'm going to read a set of short poems that I wrote that are all on the theme of invisibility. And the first one is called Invisibility. The trick to invisibility is acting as though you belong and then fading into the background. Stroll nonchalantly into the empty cafeteria, plug in your laptop, and surf away as municipal workers come and go, cursing the vending machines and filling coffee mugs. Settle on the back stairs beyond the party fray, smiling at those who notice and move on, observing the crowd. Stare into the fireplace, absorbed by the embers, as conversations meld into background blur, and you are left to the warmth of acceptable solitude. Isolation is not so hard. It is visibility that is the chore. This one is called Coffee Hour. After church on Sundays, we have kind of a social time, and you have friends and strangers who were there, and this was an encounter that I observed. Day-old stubble in a smoke-scented muscle shirt jostles 80-year-old hatted elegance reaching for food. Gentle rumble, "Excuse me." "I see you," she says. It is so good to be seen," he says. "Sometimes I'm invisible." I've been invisible too. "Transparent," he says. "It's good to be seen." He places a clutch of green orbs on a paper plate, sniffing. "Grapes, fruit from the beginning of time." She resumes a former conversation. He glances back, then limps away, nameless, to disappear again. These next two poems, I think one of the roles of a poet is to bring invisible things and invisible people to others' notice. And these are two experiences of seeing people who are homeless. And the first is called Taking the Fifth. And it's written after going into New York to see the opening of an art show. Facing Trump across the Avenue of Gold, a nap-haired woman shrouded in white lies shaking, retching toward a plastic cup. Cold? Drug sick? No matter. Cars and walkers hurry past, silent and unseeing as nearby cathedral windows. Dare I stop? Rushing with family to wine-toasted elegance, celebrating art's liberation, how do I free you? A word, a dollar, whose pain do such tokens ease? 2 hours later, you were gone. Did uniforms shift you to shelter or just beyond reach? I regret the cold, wonder if you would have frightened my child or just awakened him had I touched your hand, no longer invisible. This one is called Homeless Bound. On the streets, invisibility is easy. We sidestep the unkempt mumbler, the bag dragger, the bundled ragged sleeping on a bench. The rest hide, tucked into corners and carols, until someone beckons, opens the doors for a day of help. Undeniable masses jostle for handouts, line up for paperwork, surrender to haircuts and flu shots. Spanish flies outside the ladies' room. Africa's mother cradles her infant. Alcohol and urine and smoke, smoke, smoke waft like hangovers of boredom and neglect. In the kitchen, Cub Scouts proffer brownies doled out in plastic-gloved safety. I'm 48 years old, says a frizzy blonde in a fuzzy hat. I've never been in this position before. The people I thought would be there aren't. I need a helping hand. For this day, the hands extend. Helpers gathered to tighten the net and snag the searching. Tomorrow, they stretch again, strands of agency separated by chasms the carless struggle to navigate. The unsheltered scatter again beyond notice into the dusk. And this last one is about the miraculous invisible, when you are pregnant and you first feel your baby. It's called quickening. I wish you could have felt the quickening, that tickly bubble that shifts from question to conviction in the first-time womb, growing into wiggles and kicks, rolls and bladder stomps. You learn which voices prompt leaps or sleep, that accidental caffeine jazzes everyone, that heat lights retreat. Watery tumbles breed mystical communion. Growing life not yet lived, I bond to you, known and unseen, except in dim, thumb-sucking ultrasound, but soon face-to-face incarnation of dreams.
Thank you, Sharon. That segues into another one of our little quotable quotes here on the theme of pregnancy, actually. Why do I think reading is important? It's such an effective medium between mind and mind. We think largely in words. A medium made only of words doesn't impose the barrier of any other medium. It is naked and unprotected communication. That's how you get pregnant. May you always be so. Next up is Geri Silk. Geri is a multi-talented person. She's a jazz flautist, a dance movement therapist, creative arts teacher. She teaches water exercise classes with the very poetic name Dancing in Liquid Emeralds. And she's here to read a couple of poems for us, one that celebrates spring, and the other honors the summer solstice. Geri Silk.
This is one of my favorite holidays, and when the summer solstice starts, I can literally feel it. So it's called summer solstice. Can you feel the earth stand still? Can you feel the earth linger as it kisses the sun goodnight? In the longest day of the year, the shortest night, wild visions of shooting stars and celestial ballroom dancing into the dancing darkness, tango of my dreams. Pause for a kiss. Kiss the shore, kiss my forehead, kiss my being. Now the fireflies begin to come out. The jasmine bush is buzzing with bees. The jazzmen are staying up all night playing a sweet refrain, Coltrane. In the distance, a solemn train, taking me, rushing me, till midnight, express of my soul. Can you feel it? The sun glazes my cheek. I feel weak knowing the little breeze affects my sigh, and the blue sky dripping with peace oozes out onto a landscape of children playing. The nightingale sings at noon. It will be over soon, and then we descend into a fiery destruction, lolling and brain-dead heat, barefoot walking feet. Peaches are good eat, but ah, that one moment, that flash as the earth turns its corner, screechingly without brakes, but floats and floats and floats and floats and floats and floats and floats, floats and floats. This other poem is called A Poem for Claire, and it was a commission. This woman artist who makes books wanted me to write a poem so she could do the calligraphy on it for her handmade book, but that never happened. So now this poem is dedicated to anyone you know named Claire. And I am available for commissions. I like writing what they call occasional poem. I write very occasionally, but I do like to write for occasions. It puts the pressure on. Clairvoyant Claire of the Clair de Lune wakes up and comes out of her room, goes for a walk under the springtime moon, sings herself a springtime tune, wondering what rhymes with June. The smell of jonquils make her swoon, selects her favorite silver spoon to drink jasmine tea at high noon. In her garden appears a loon, declaring it will be summer soon. What did they find in the ancient rune? Soon noon, June loon, swoon tune, loon spoon, moon room. Soon noon, June loon, swoon tune, loon spoon, moon room.
Geri Silk. Are there any Claires in the room? Well, you can see her during the intermission, and she'll, whatever your name is, she can crank something out for you. Next up is 11-year-old Miranda Braemer. Am I pronouncing that right? Braemer, excuse me. Miranda Braemer. And her mom, you'll hear from her later in the program, Kristen Ace, and her mom tells us that Miranda is a beautiful artist and a budding writer. And I'm sure that's true. Mothers never lie. She's a 5th grader at Normandy Park School, and she's going to share 2 short poems with us. She says one is funny and one is poignant. Miranda Braemer.
The first poem is called The Best Part of a Party. The best part of a party is not the guests. It's not the cake or the treats or the family or the sweets. The best part of the party is when everyone leaves. You're alone in your house, and while your brother gladly stabs the balloons with a knife, the rest of your family turns to chipmunks. And the next poem is called Flying, which I wrote at school. Breeze in my face, keeping a steady pace, up with the birds, not coming down. I love to go around and around, off the ground. I'm like an angel in the sky, you won't see me pass by, for I am up too high, flying with my wings.
That was Miranda Braemer. Your mom was right. Next up, we have Irene Moulay. Irene is in addition to being a poet, she's a teacher in Edison. And along the kids' theme tonight, she has two poems. One is about being brave when nobody likes you. She says it's called I'm a Lion Inside. And the other has also a very interesting title called Chained to a Fence Called Suburbia. Irene Moulay.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Actually, I teach in Plainfield, which is just a little different. I live in Edison, and I'm just really proud of where I teach, so I just wanted to share that with you. The poem is actually called I Am a Lion Inside, and it was written with a seven-year-old who's in first grade, and she was at, I think you might all know, that lunchroom where everyone's sitting, and that feeling of someone telling you they don't want you to sit at their lunch table, and they don't want to be your friend. And so this young girl was named Gabriella, and her head was down, and she was crying really hard, and no one could get her to stop. And I brought her over to the side, and I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "No one wants to be my friend." So we wrote this poem together, and we recited it over and over again until she felt strong enough, and she stopped crying. And it goes like this. I am a lion inside. Like me? Don't like me. I don't care. I'm strong. I'm a lion inside. Roar. And we roared, and maybe after 3 or 4 times, she found her way back to her table. And guess what? Nobody wanted her to sit there. But she stayed, and she stopped crying. So now in my classroom, a lot of the kids know this poem, so when someone comes to me and says, he doesn't like me, we just roar. And then they go back and they face the music. So it's just poetry. It has a great meaning to me, and I like to share it with my students. This poem is from a book that I wrote called You Can't Die from Sad. I'm chained to a fence called Suburbia, 2 blocks from the park. I don't mind at all. I'm used to it. I'm chained to a fence called Suburbia, 3 blocks from the library. A little boy takes care of me. He comes by every day. He brings me crackers and juice. He never thinks to set me free, and I never ask him to. I am chained to a fence called Suburbia. I will do whatever it is you want me to do. I am chained to a fence called Suburbia, 6 blocks from the church. Thank you.
Irene Moulay. Thank you, Irene. Next up, we have Diana Strickland. She is a native of Birmingham, Alabama. She's been living in New Jersey for the last 9 years. She's studying to become a minister, and she has already written 2 books of poetry. One is called Mercies of God, and the other is called Life. Diana Strickland.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to minister 3 poems. Awake. Awake out of sleep and listen closely. I was captive to lies and deceit. Darkness played me like a fiddle. Flipped my universe around in circles. Blindfolds come off. I want a microscopic picture. A filthy and chaotic space that cluttered my everyday, drained and dehydrated from help of healthy living. I ran home, and like the prodigal son, my dad was waiting with open arms. Cross. Sad sun, black moon. Devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's such a lie I could vomit. King Jesus died for believers and unbelievers. He hung on the cross for everyone. You are not exempt. Sad sun, black moon. Devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He's such a liar, capital deceiver. Your scars are evident, don't hearken to his voice. He's been defeated. Flirt with evil doors wide open for corruption. He's no joke. There's nothing hilarious about eternal damnation. He desires to devour. There's no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. Your path cross mine, and I say, sad sun, black moon. Devil comes to steal, kill, and to destroy. Honeymoon phase. We're at the stage of nitty-gritty, down and dirty, commit a split, endure long suffering. At first mesmerized, on cloud 9, smooth sailing, fresh orchids soaring high. Honeymoon phase. We're at the stage of nitty-gritty, down and dirty, commit a split, endure long suffering. People placed on my journey to test my patience, shape my character, replica of Jesus, steadfast relationship. No man, nor demon, nor beast can maneuver.
That's a tough act to follow. Thank you, Diana. Well, our next quotable quote here. Doing research on the web is like using a library assembled piecemeal by pack rats and vandalized nightly. Next up, we have another member of the Hatala family, Nicholas Hatala, age 12, the brother of Veronica, who we heard earlier. Nicholas attends St. Peter's, and he's also a Revolutionary War reenactor with the 4th Battalion of New Jersey Volunteers. So if any fighting breaks out here later, he's our man. He'll take care of us. Please welcome Nicholas Hatala. Nicholas is a little different than we expected.
I'm going to read for Nicholas. He's my son. Ponderous by Nicholas Hatala. On the door to destiny, everything is shaking. On the step that you take up, everything is ponderous. When you take that step and feel the door open wide, everything is different now, and everything is done. On that day when the world was tossed upside down, when your day has finally arrived and you have begun to see the light, one day, just maybe one day, you will see your life as it is. And when that day comes, remember yourself as you once were. And think, and remember your days past, your battles that you've won, and the encounters you have cast away, the problems you've solved, and always they forget. They forget how long it has taken for them to get to your door of destiny and the road you took to get there.
Thank you, Nicholas. That must be one interesting battalion that you serve in. Next up, we have a ringer. Someone who's actually been paid to write. Ray Passacantando is a former newspaper columnist with the Daily Record. He's a playwright. He's been featured in Tim Russert's book, Wisdom of Our Fathers. He's written a book of his own about his beloved black Labrador retriever, Kizzy. He's also the father-in-law of Barbara Conti, who you'll hear from later. And he would like to share something with us for Mother's Day. Ray Passacantando.
Thank you. With Mother's Day on the near horizon, can I see by a show of hands those of you who think you had the best mother ever? Raise your hand. Best mother. Just about everybody's hand is up. I'm here to tell you that you're one step off, because who had the best mother? You're looking at him. I wrote this, and it appeared in the Daily Record, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. And here's the way it looked in the Daily Record. It had a nice picture of my mom, some roses. You remember it? Where I got it, after it appeared in the Daily Record, a good old black friend of mine who was my mailman, who was born and raised in Morristown, his name was Sylvester Huey. Probably some of you knew him. When he left town, he went down to North Carolina, and this is where he lives now. And I don't know how he got a hold of this, but from North Carolina, he had it laminated, and he sent it up to me with a beautiful note. Need my glasses to read it. Hi, Ray. I have shared your article with a number of friends. We'll give you a ring next time we're in the area. Be blessed, Cy. His name was Sylvester Huey. The name of the article, the title of the article, as it appeared originally in Renaissance magazine, was I Should Have Hugged Her More. And I think that most of us feel that way about our moms after a while, especially after they're gone. It goes like this. God, she was beautiful. Everything about her. Everything. What a lady. It's been almost 40 years that she's been gone. In 2007, she would have reached 100. Instead, her 60th year was her last. I was 32 when she was taken from us by a deadly, fast-acting leukemia. I remember visiting her in the hospital, her first day there. It was just 3 days before her final day. Her doctor met me in the hallway before I had gone into her room and stunned me with his chilling prognosis. She had 6 months to live. He wasn't even close. She had been ill. She hadn't been ill. It was all very sudden. I'd sent her a dozen red long-stem roses that stood in a vase on the table next to her bed. When she saw me at the door, she smiled and said, "Here comes my sweetheart." She always called me her sweetheart. I was her fourth and youngest child, her only son. My older sisters were her sweethearts too. She didn't leave anyone out. I should have hugged her more. I think about it all the time. And then she was gone, and it was too late. God, what I wouldn't give to have her in my arms right now, just for a minute, half a minute. I'd want to breathe in the freshness of her laundered blouse and the shampoo in her hair. I'd want to feel her against my chest, that little body that had given me my life. I'd want to feel her arms around my back. There were so many times when I could have hugged her, when I had the chance. Why did I let all those times pass? She was so much fun. We laughed over the craziest things. And when she laughed, she always raised her hand to cover her mouth in the self-consciousness she felt over the space between her two front teeth. Little did she know back then how very vogue that quirky little trait would become. But knowing Mom, she would have raised her hand anyway. She worked as a seamstress on the second floor in a dress factory at the corner of Maple and Fayette Streets in Perth Amboy. She did piecework and many times brought home what she hadn't finished to complete on the little black singer in the corner of our small dining room. I can picture her at work in that old brick building with its oiled wood floors, sitting at a machine in a long row of machines, sewing collars on her pockets, on dresses, other times doing pleats or shoulders, along with an assembly line of dressmaking. She loved working there. She had friends all around her, and despite the never-ending ear-retching clacking of sewing machines and the unrelenting pressure of having to fill a bin by the end of the day, there was the constant chattering and laughter amongst them. They were either laying plans to fix up the single girl there with the blue-eyed butcher at the food fair, or talking pies or cakes, or about that nutty Milton Berle on TV. Mom was a food shopper's food shopper. She spent all the money she made in the dress factory and a lot of my dad's pay from his bricklayer job, in all three of the supermarkets within a block of each other, right in the middle of town. If one store had something in their bins and another, better in their bins than another, she knew about it and would make the rounds, dragging me along, carting home only the best for her widowed mother, dad, and my 3 sisters. There were times when I definitely didn't want to hug her. As a matter of fact, often. I would try to hide so that she couldn't find me, especially on Saturday mornings when she went to the farmer's market. What humiliation. Each week I had to carry home the chickens she bought. If they were dead and wrapped in paper, it wouldn't have been bad, but these guys were alive, with their feet tied at the ankles, stuck into a paper bag, with their heads poking out from holes ripped in the corner at the opposite end. There were girls in the neighborhood that I was interested in. I didn't think it was right if they saw me riding home on my fenderless Monarch with a couple of live, ugly chickens under my arm. It wasn't good for the image. No one wants to go to the movies with someone who's carting live chickens around town on his bike, even if he pays for the tickets. She bought me a fleece-lined leather bomber jacket once. It probably cost her a whole week's pay. Our basketball team was playing an away game at a school on the other side of town. There were no lockers for the visiting team, so our clothing was left unattended on benches in the changing room. I remember a bitter cold night with crusted snow on the ground and running the mile or so home without the jacket. Someone had stolen it. I was so worried and unhappy, but Mom said that she would get me another. I didn't even hug her then. She hugged me. What was I thinking? I guess all I'm trying to say is hug your mother. She's the one who loves you. And hug her again for me.
That was Ray Passacantando. That was lovely, Ray. And to all the moms out there, a happy Mother's Day. How are we doing on the tape there, Ben?
We got about 10 minutes left.
And how are you holding up? Okay. Well, we've had I mentioned earlier that some of our people are reading for the first time, and I think our opening act did a great job for their very first time out of the gate, and you gave them such a warm reception that one of them, he'd had another short poem in his hip pocket, and he was a little bit nervous, but because you were so nice, he'd like to give it a shot. So we're going to let Shawn Luke give it a shot. Okay, Shawn? Here you go.
This rap is called Emotions, and am I angry, am I serious, or is my face just so mysterious? You cannot tell on how I feel, done on my iron will, so quick on the sound of my feet towards the heart, just like the heart, I was still a storm, trying to hum, in my mind still a fight, trying to hide from people who see but do not seek until the end of the day. When you go under the dirt, I think you know what I mean, so mysterious and delirious, Crazy middle finger rages, sound like I'm caged, these sound like I'm raged. The words coming out of my brain, to this pencil on this pad for the rain to cool down. Or these words help me help you understand that I can be mad, can be sad, can be glad. But it's not that easy to say because we are still in the battle of the days and still keep coming to me like a 180 per hour Lamborghini.
He must have a computer for a brain. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, and he just did 300 words. Thank you, Shawn, that was nice. Next up, we have Linda Reed. Linda is a Madison resident and a member of the church here, and she considers herself a rookie poet. So in the same vein, we're going to hear someone now this is only her second poem that we're going to hear. So please give a warm welcome. She'd like to thank St. Peter's and Melissa Hall in particular for encouraging her. Linda Reed.
Good evening. Actually, I have a second piece tonight that I'll read. But the first poem, I should say that I've always been fascinated by cathedrals, especially the Gothic medieval beauties. And I've wondered how could they have been built all those many centuries ago. A few weeks ago, I was in Barnes & Noble and found a gorgeous, beautifully illustrated book titled How to Build a Cathedral. And it's the inspiration for this first poem, which I have titled Cathedral. Gothic arches and slender spires soar toward heaven's wide embrace, as if to touch the hand of God. Stone facades adorned with statues form a sheath of exquisite embroidery and lace, hand-stitched by the yard. Brilliant rose windows of jeweled tone and hue proclaim God's majesty and might, and provide mortal man with a mind's eye view of celestial mystery and light. Cathedrals of such splendor and magnificence were bought with human toil, at cost beyond all measure, an offering of prayer and praise sent from earthly soil for the divine Creator's pleasure. Cathedrals are that sacred space where we commune with God in the fullness of our allotted time. The honored guest bestows his grace and lingers there till we go to dwell with him in eternity sublime. Such towering temples, so vast, so grand, might make the worshiper feel hesitant and small. These masterpieces, wrought by the mason's own trained hand, surely elevate the stature of us all. 'Twas God who granted the talent and the skill to man's most humble frame. 'Twas through man's devotion and will these palaces were built in God's most holy name. The second piece, I was inspired to write after the Boston bombings of last month. I've titled it From the Mouths of Babes. Kids say the darndest things, don't they? Funny things, surprising things, awkward things, sometimes brutally honest things. Things that seem to spew spontaneously from their minds and mouths and even their hearts. Sometimes at precisely the right moment, sometimes at the worst possible moment. But we should pay attention, we adults, because from the mouths of babes may come pearls of wisdom. Of course, there are the questions, so many questions. They always want to know why. Why? And we impatiently may reply, because, just because, as if that's an adequate answer. Because what? Because how? Because why? They want to know. They wonder why. Wonderment that could last a lifetime, could lead to a scientific discovery, a medical miracle. And then there is the plea. I want, can I have, can I please, 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 oh please. And in adult-voiced exasperation we say no, not now, perhaps not ever, as if a single no will quell a denied request. But sometimes a child's plea may be for something that is bigger than themselves, something for all of us. We should pay attention. From a doomed 8-year-old little boy standing in a crowd on a beautiful Boston day, a final plaintive plea. No more hurting people, peace. A simple, profound, eloquent plea for all mankind. From the mouth of a babe, a pearl of wisdom. No more hurting people, peace. This was Martin's plea, and now it is his poignant legacy. Could it be the answer that the world is waiting for? Ah, if only.
Linda Reed. That's very nice, Linda. Carl, are you still in the back there? We've had a couple of cancellations in the second half, so if during the intermission, if you could bang out a short epic verse for us, that would be nice. Next up, we have another wordplay veteran. Mary Woolley, age 14, is an 8th grader who likes the piano but loves biology. She's going to be reading Dog Body and Cat Mind by Jenny Joseph. Mary Woolley. Mary Woolley? Well, maybe not. Mary, are you here?
I'm doing her homework.
Okay. Well, next year. All right. How are we doing tape-wise there, sir?
Got about like 4, 5, 6 minutes left.
What do you think, Carla? Okay. We have another ringer amongst us, and I'm delighted to bring her up here. This is not strictly speaking a musical evening, but Carla Ulbrich's lyrics are just so wonderful that I think you're going to get a real bang out of them. She's known as the singing patient because she turned some really serious illnesses into comic fodder. And she's very unique also in that she sings in both English and Klingon. She's a favorite at the Minstrel, at First Night, and also at our film festival. Please welcome Carla Ulbrich.
Well, with that introduction, now I know what to play. All right. Kevin forgot to mention that I'm originally from South Carolina. Any other Southerners here? I know we've got one Alabamian and someone who's being pointed at but not acknowledging. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Texas? Oh, that's its own country, yeah. Yeah. So, South Carolina, I'm originally from South Carolina. So one thing I noticed when I got up here was that there's no Waffle Houses in New Jersey. I know, right? It's just awesome. It's open 24 hours. And I married a guy who lives in Jersey. He's actually originally from the Bronx. He keeps pointing that out when I say that. So, and I took him down to Clemson, my hometown, and we of course had to go see this site, Waffle House. And we were walking through the parking lot. He's got his Italian hair, you know, with the gel and the leather jacket and all that. And we're walking through the parking lot, and these 3 kids go, "Look, it's the Fonz! Hey, give it up, Fonz!" And that's when I realized it'd be much easier if I moved here, so. Oh, lost my volume here. It's coming through? There we go. So it doesn't, you know, I know you don't have any up here, but we have like 3 at every exit down south. It's the law. And it doesn't matter how many Waffle Houses they put up, there's always at least 1 letter burned out in every sign. I decided that called for a song. The guy who changes the light bulbs changes everything. He makes things as they once were. Security he brings, he's got power, he brings meaning, he sheds light on things. The guy who changes the light bulbs changes everything. See, Waffle House is Awful House without its W. And while you might agree with that, you'd fix it if it were you. And here's another problem for which there's no excuse. No H, no O. I don't know, what is waffle use? The guy who changes the light bulbs changes everything. It's very distracting. This microphone smells like perfume. smells really good. I'm used to it smelling like beer. Let's see, where were we? Oh yes, we were at the hotel next. When the guy at the Ramada has a boss who's a tight wad, we're left with Ram, or Ada, sometimes Ahmad, or Da, which is yes in Russia, or perhaps the sun god, Ra. Sometimes they just am. Sometimes mad is all they are. How about some French cuisine, you might ask your spouse, when up ahead you clearly see a sign that says, Le House. And whatever may befall me, may I never sink so low as to have to give it up for food and become a waffle hoe. The guy who changes the light bulbs changes everything. So does the guy who every morning delivers your newspaper, the one who cleans the bathroom and refills the toilet paper, the priest who sits and listens to the sins of the confessor, and I just don't know where I'd be without my hairdresser. If you're feeling unimportant, like you might as well go fishing, think back on those highway signs with several letters missing. Because the guy who changes the light bulbs has a most important job. When he's missing how we miss him, things get really odd. He's got power, he brings meaning, he's practically a god. The guy who changes the light bulbs has a most important job. Running out of tape, Kevin? Yes, but I was asking if you're running out of tape, or do you don't use tape anymore, do you? Oh, you got a backup. Camera on a stick. Okay. Well, since he mentioned my alter ego, the singing patient, I was going to sing this one here. This is a song about losing too much weight. It could happen. It happened to me. And let me tell you, you think, oh, I wish I'd get too skinny. Well, let me tell you, it's always greener on the other side. I was just wondering, hypothetically, what would you do? Theoretically, if something should happen accidentally, or medically, what if your butt was gone? If sitting in a wooden chair felt like tax and you found you had nothing to hold up your slacks because instead of a button now you just had a crack, something would have to be done. Would you write Dear Abby for advice in a letter, put a cushion in your chair to make it feel better, try to fatten up with brie and cheddar? What if your butt was gone? If your butt disappeared without a trace and everyone looked all over the place, why do you have that look on your face? Hey, it could happen to you. If that booty, patootie, that sweet derriere were now inexplicably no longer there, how soon would you miss it? How much would you care? What do you think you would do? Would you call me up? Would you fall to pieces? Would you make it the topic of your doctoral thesis? Trying to go out and find a prosthesis? What if your butt was gone? They make them, you know, the prosthesis. I saw one at Spencer's. That's where I get all my medical devices. A butt, as you know, could be curvy or flat, dimpled or pimpled, skinny or fat, just like an opinion. Everyone's got one, but what if your butt was suddenly not one? If something should happen, hypothetically, what would you do? Theoretically, if something should happen accidentally or medically, what if your butt was gone? Would you call me up? Would you start confiding how you tried to make it grow with fluorescent lighting? How you had to give up horseback riding? What if your butt was gone? Would you realize there's a good selection? Shopping for clothes in the children's section. Go to your closet, make a commotion. Take all your pants and throw them in the ocean. Here comes the sing-along. Does your butt hang low? Does it wobble to and fro? Can you tie it in a knot? Can you tie it in a bow? Can you sling it over your shoulder like a continental soldier? Does your butt hang low? Pass around if you'd like to know when I'll be playing in Morristown again. I'm just going to pass it around. So,
Carla Ulbrich. So we're going to take a short intermission, and we want you all to return afterwards. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, okay?
Girl, give me half. Bye.
Morristown.